Welcome to another episode of Fund Flip Repeat. I am your private hard money lender, Joel Cadlick. And today that's exactly what I want to take some time to talk about is private hard money lending and what that is as far as a tool that you can utilize to maximize your profit, blow up your margins, and scale to where you really and truly are trying to get to. So we're going to hop right into it. I am going to be speaking with you guys solo today, but I'm really excited because this is a topic that I'm definitely and truly passionate about as a private money lender and the investors that we get to work with day in and day out. So like I said, guys, hard money is a tool. It's a tool in your toolbox. It is using OPM, other people's money, to be able to realize the goals that you're trying to achieve. And you're basically able, with a good private hard money lender, with that relationship, access the mountain of cash that they have to be able to inject into your business to see it go where you would like it to go. So real quick, before we get too deep into it, I just want to talk about more of the basics. So what is hard money or what is private money? When it comes to real estate, it is basically a short term, right? So there's going to be short term 6 to 9 month loans, and they're what's called asset-based financing. That's where the term hard money comes from. It's not that it's hard to get. It's actually opposite. That's why that term can be misunderstood. It's very easy money, but it's called hard money because it is a loan against a hard asset. It's asset-based, meaning that asset is a flip house or, an actual house that you're going to be flipping, or maybe it's a commercial building. So that's where that term hard money comes from. Private hard money also allows for fast approvals, very minimal red tape, and it is tailored for the exact investment projects that you're looking for. So yes, it is more expensive, but let's compare a couple of different scenarios side by side, which I think will be super, super helpful and also distract or be able to counter measure some of the misconceptions around it. So cash, absolutely. Pure cash is great, but it is limited. You're locked into one deal at a time. Let's say you're using your own cash, unless you have like millions and millions of dollars and that's what you're using it for. That's great because you're going to have less fees, less expenses. You're not going to have that overhead that you would have to pay for financing. And it also allows you to have, in some senses, I would say less risk, but I could also argue that it's more risk because you're putting all of your chips on the table for this project. And it could, especially if you're over leveraged, and maybe there's not as many exit strategies, and cash ultimately at the end of the day to be able to stay healthy and liquid on your balance sheet or in your bank account can mean the difference from you staying in the game or being pushed out of the game. So having cash, having liquidity on hand for emergencies. Dave Ramsey always talks about having an emergency fund, which is absolutely true. Emergency fund personally, emergency in your business, because life, as we know, is so unpredictable. Being able to have cash to utilize as a tool to draw on where you're liquid is super, super important. So cash, obviously the cheapest option if you're going to use your own cash. And then you got traditional financing. Traditional financing is cheaper ultimately on paper, but it is also a slow process. It can be restrictive, and it's not typically always built for flippers or value add projects that you're doing. So it could be a little bit more difficult to get a loan approved for a flip house or a project you're working on that is traditional. There's just a mountain of guidelines and a mountain of paperwork. I usually call it the spider web of confusion with paperwork. So that can be a little bit challenging as well, but it is a good, affordable source to be able to do deals with the right relationship with the right traditional lender. A local bank is always a good idea, creating those relationships with the local banker. So, and then you've got hard money. Yes, hard money is considered more expensive. I'm going to address that here in a minute, but it is also very fast. It's flexible, and it allows you the ability to leverage that as a tool ultimately to scale. So when you're thinking about these short-term projects, you're going into a project 4, 5, 6, 7 months, you're shifting back out, whether you're refinancing using the BRRRR method or you are selling it via flip, you're only having to pay those higher interest rates for a very short period of time. So let's put this in a perspective of like holding a rental property. So if you're going to use hard money for say 6 months, you're going to buy the property, you're going to fix it up, and then you're going to refinance it for long-term financing and hold that property for 30 years. Is that 6 months of higher interest rate really that big of a deal in a 30 years timeline? No. It's not, or it shouldn't be, because you're buying it at a good enough deal and you're able to get that deal using that tool where you might not otherwise been able to do so. So when you look at it from a long-term horizon, it's being able to execute and do that deal, whether you might not have been able to do before. I would do that deal all day long. Of course, if the numbers pencil and it's healthy. Now you have an asset for 30 years, the principal's being paid down, the property is appreciating in value, and you have this asset that you can eventually, it'll be free and clear, and you can do many, many things with it, or you can 1031 exchange it into another property, and there's some tax savings there. There's so many things you can do when you're holding real estate, depending on what your strategy is. So that brings me to the point of like the real cost of not using hard money is missing out on an opportunity or being able to close lightning quick. The fastest deal we've done here in the last few months, we closed in 72 hours. So we have got notified of a project. It needed to be funded immediately. I can't remember the exact scenario. Either the lender on the original deal pulled out or something, or the investor forgot to get funding lined up because they've got some volume going on. And they said, hey, we need to close this immediately. So in that situation, if you're going to a bank and you're not hitting the closing timelines, not only one is that going to damage your reputation with a, let's say, a seller, but it could also cost you the deal in and of itself. I've seen crazier things happen where deals fall through at the table. Say, hey, I have already offered, you need to close when you say you're going to close. If you don't, I'm pulling out. Some investors will take that seriously and some will say, I know they'll be fine. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes the seller actually does pull out or doesn't offer an extension and they've lost a deal. So that's super, super important. And that is a major, major cost. So that's another thing. And tying up all your cash in one property instead of leveraging into 2 or 3 properties, that loses you ROI ultimately to be able to do more volume. So let's look at this a little bit on like a case study. This might be helpful. You have investor A, he uses cash. He flips one house in 6 months. Let's say it was a great deal. It was a good deal. It wasn't like a home run. Let's call it it wasn't a base hit. Let's say it was a double or a triple, using an analogy of baseball. And he makes $40,000. So he uses his own cash, all his own money. Maybe he has a little bit left over for emergency. He flips that house in 6 months. He makes $40,000. That sounds like a great, great deal because it is. That's not bad at all. Let's look at investor B though. So investor B uses private hard money, OPM, other people's money as a leverage, and he flips 3 houses in 6 months and makes $30,000 per deal. He's making less per deal, $10,000 less. Sounds like a lot because it is, but he's able to do more. So $1,000 per deal, he might be making $10,000 less than investor A, but investor B did 3 of those and he made $90,000 total. That's even after fees, let's say. So even after fees, he's making $90,000. Investor A made $40,000. So it's very quickly to see and realize that the folks that are doing multiple deals and at volume and at scale are using one of the most critical tools in business is leverage and relationship. We talk about relationship a lot on this podcast because it's just so, so important. And a relationship with a private hard money lender, such as fixed lending, I'll use an example, obviously, this is our podcast, is critical if you're looking to do more deals. Now, investor A, if that is their chosen way, their chosen path, hey, I just want to flip 1 house a year, make an extra $40,000, then that is awesome. I would say do that and don't use hard money. If you're wanting to, but if it's exhausting all your liquidity, I would say maybe you should consider financing, because that's still ultimately putting you in a safer position to have a little bit of cash on hand and you have a partner in the deal that can also help you and guide you. And that's exactly what we like to do as well, is help and guide and make sure you're getting an extra set of eyes on the property. It's being underwritten by a professional and you're going into the deal together with a money partner. So there's a lot to say about that, but it's good to think about those different scenarios of like, how do you want to structure your business? How do you want to grow? How do you want to scale? How do you ultimately you want to use that, that trigger word, right, is leverage. And it's so, so important. And that's why you hear the term all the time, OPM, other people's money. Hard money allows you to focus on velocity, and that's more deals, faster turnarounds, ultimately more cash flow. And that's super, super critical. So what I would challenge, again, depends on the position and the place you're in, but I would challenge and it sounds silly, right? And it sounds like, well, no, you have to look at every little detail. And I agree with that. And the bottom line is super, super important, but don't ultimately make your final decisions based on oh, this interest rate is 12 versus I can get it at 7 with the bank, or I can use my own cash and not have to pay interest at all. But start focusing on what the money allows you to do. Don't view money as or I should say this better, is like view money as exactly what it is it's leverage, and it ultimately gives you more and better options. One way me and my team and stuff like to define wealth is simply more and better options. That's how we define it. Those with more and better options typically are the ones who realize and can see more wealth. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful. And there's definitely something to say about speed and convenience. Speed and convenience is a huge factor in this. A lot of times with private hard money, there's no formal appraisals, no formal inspections. It's a partnership. You're doing these deals together. And it's a lot simpler, and you're not having to chase your tail or chase the bank or chase whoever else to be able to get your money. It's very straightforward. And because it's a loan, like we said originally, it's a loan against a hard asset, against the property, not necessarily credit and 2 years of taxes and all of that other stuff. So think about it as rocket fuel into your business and how you can leverage that, how you can use OPM, and go look for more deals. And I would say as a helpful exercise too is just model it out. Model it out using 3 different scenarios: using private hard money, using traditional bank financing, using your own cash. And then model out a few scenarios as, if I could use this type of money, what could I achieve with the right capacity? Of course, if you have the capacity, that's a huge factor. You want to make sure you have the capacity to do the volume, or else that could be very, very damaging. And then you just end up in a worse situation because you over leveraged yourself on your time and your commitment and your ability to be able to execute. So it's something you could certainly ease into, but then also look at it as, hey, what would I be able to do and could do with traditional? And what could I do and be able to do with cash? And it's helpful to kind of look at that and be open-minded on that, and then put in the interest rates, put in the points, put in all that, and you're going to see per deal, you're obviously going to maximize your profit on the cash because you have less overhead and expenses, and then you're going to have your fees for the traditional, and then you're going to have your higher fees on the hard money. But then just start playing with it on a multiplier and see what that actually materializes to be. As a helpful resource, I'll go ahead and put in a spreadsheet of exactly that, of 3 different scenarios: hard money, cash, and traditional, and what that would look like if you went from doing 1 deal to 3 deals. And that could be over a period. It doesn't have to be, hey, 3 deals at once. It could be, let's go from 1 deal a year or 1 deal in 6 months to 3 deals in 6 months. But I can say the borrowers that we work with that are doing lots and lots of volume are using leverage and using our money to be able to achieve exactly what we're talking about. And the difference, depending on what level you get to, if you're starting to talk about like increasing from 10 to 20 to 30 deals a year, which is a lot, that's a lot of volume, but folks are out there doing it. There's folks out there that we've even had on the podcast that are moving from 60 deals to 100 deals a year. When you really start playing with those numbers, the fees that you might think with private hard money is like, oh, that's too much, is really so inconsequential because they're focused on the long-term growth and they're focused on the long game and the end game. And ultimately, what you should be tracking is your bottom line and making your margins bigger and bigger and bigger with the volume. There's a lot to say with that as well. If you're doing multiple deals, you probably are getting better pricing as far as material cost. If you're doing a one-off, maybe you have a crew that is working exclusively for you. You're keeping them busy, so you're getting better pricing from them on the labor side. So not only material, but the labor. And then you're also being able to tap into a hard money lender and be able to get their funds to be able to continue to do more deals. So I just wanted to talk about that here for a second. This is a really quick podcast, but think about the different strategies that you can use money. Think about the different strategies and how you can deploy the money. And really, when we're talking about money, it is just exactly that. It is leverage. So that is it for me, guys. I also wanted to say that we are having every 4th Tuesday of the month, we are having an in-person live meetup, the Fund Flip Repeat meetup. Would love to see you there. Great people making connections. You never know, you could make a connection that could change your life. It could connect you to somebody who is going to put you on a path, a trajectory of what you're looking to do, what you're looking to accomplish. And networking is such a key thing. Networking. The more conversations and the more people you can get in front of and talk about of what you're excited and what you're trying to accomplish is an actual metric of trajectory of success that you're realizing as well. So it's just another opportunity to meet. It's very informal. We come, we hang out, we talk. You can get appetizers or drinks or whatever you want. And fourth Tuesday of the month, we will put the details of that in the show notes as well, along with that spreadsheet we talked about, and would love to connect with you there. If you guys have any questions at all, you can always reach me directly, joel@fixedlending.com. We'll leave that information as well. Yeah, if you guys find any value out of this podcast or this episode at all, of course, we really, really appreciate your likes, shares, subscriptions, whatever it's called. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next time.